From the shadowy depths of the city, where justice and mystery intertwine, emerges a broadcast as daring and vigilant as the masked Avenger himself. You are tuned in to the Green Hornet Case Files, unveiling the legacy and cultural significance of one of the greatest crime fighters of all time. Now, let the adventure begin. Here are your hosts, Kory and Greg.
Episode 15.
I'll take it.
We will call this one the grab bag.
I like it.
The green grab bag.
This one was my idea. I feel good about that.
It was.
I also feel very far away from the table today for some reason. Anyway.
Why? Chairs do slide forward if you'd like to slide closer.
I just don't.
There. Does that feel better?
Much. I don't understand what was going on there.
We had some folks in the studio here a week or so ago that I don't know what it is. A lot of times, from radio station working, that a lot of people, when they come in and they're kind of uncomfortable with being in a radio station, they'll scoot their chairs back and they'll talk to you from back here.
Yeah, no, don't do that.
I don't get that.
I mean, I get if you want to be back far away from me. I understand,
but get a hold of your microphone and bring it with you, and that kind of thing. So.
Anyway,
we digress just a little bit, but again, Kory and I both are ex-radio guys, and you spent 4 or 5 years in the business or something like that. And
not an extreme amount of time, less than I wanted to.
Well, that happens. That happens, yeah. And I spent the better part of 41, 42.
Just 10 times as much time.
Just a few extras. And, one of the very first things that I was taught was how to work a microphone.
Yeah.
If you're going to get close to the microphone, you soften your voice up just a little bit, and you let your voice rumble just a little bit more, and then you back off.
What's funny is that is something that since we've been podcasting together, I've really had to, because I have a bombastic voice anyway. I'm loud.
Yeah, you can be loud.
I'm a very loud person, and it's something literally everyone I know has complained about my entire life. But learning how to not do that when I'm right here.
Yes, exactly. Episode 15, the green grab bag, and what we wanted to do...
The hornet's nest.
The hornet's nest. Okay. Well... What'd you suggest? You suggested we...
Well, when we were coming up with topics, because we try to space it out so that not every episode's an interview episode, not every episode is us yammering. We try and mix it up.
Yeah.
And we were talking about topics, and I was like listening to old episodes. I was listening to last week's episode, and it rolled over into the first episodes.
No.
And I got to thinking, I was like, there's questions that we asked that we just haven't returned to yet.
Oh, yeah.
So it seemed like an apropos time. And then another question popped into my head that I wanted to pose to the audience, and that just kicked it off as like, hey, let's do a miscellaneous stuffs.
Miscellaneous. Yeah.
I went to school with Mitchellanius.
Yeah?
Yeah. He was a good guy, Mitch.
That was Mitch.
He's good.
Elanius. Last name. So I did want to say that we always get emails. We always get emails or comments on social media of some sort. A lot of them are very, very nice. And most of them are very, very nice. We've mentioned that over and over again. Every once in a while we get one that's a little bit like, why did you have such and such on? Or why didn't you guys talk about this? Or, and that's fine. Was taught a long time ago to not read the comments too much.
But I also do appreciate the insights.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I get we just haven't got there yet.
Yeah. And we always ask if we've screwed something up, if
Let
we've
us know.
Made a mistake on something, by all means.
Podcast at greenhornet66.com.
That's right. And I had a note from Todd Stutz this last week, and he was commenting on the episode with Ben and how much he enjoyed, listening to the episode, and appreciate that. But he says on another subject and talking about the TV series coming to DVD, which is something that, we always discuss because it always gets brought up. And Todd was like, he'd like to make another suggestion concerning that, not for us necessarily,
Right.
for those that wind up putting it together. Todd is essentially blind. He lost his vision in like 2013, 2014 due to macular degeneration or something of, that nature. Retinitis pigmentosa, I think is what Todd called it.
Oh, okay.
And so, he can't see anymore. So he would like to, and we're going to pass this on to those, that who knows if we'll ever wind up seeing a DVD.
Yeah.
I don't know. But he says he'd like to see an audio description for the blind that would be added to the audio menu on the disc.
Oh, fantastic idea.
So, something along that lines. And, we have discussed doing the episodes.
Yeah.
And it was brought up, in fact, one of the very first comments we ever got was from somebody saying, hey, I thought you guys were just going to do
Shut up and talk about the TV show.
26 episodes or however many, of just the TV show. And we could maybe do something along that line.
Oh, yeah.
That would be, it's Cato and he's kicking the crap out of somebody. And
that's a really good idea.
and not a bad idea.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it.
No.
Also, maybe it would be nice if there was a larger collection of the radio shows available.
Yes, it would.
Just saying. Just
Yeah.
throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Especially for someone like Todd.
Yeah. Be able to go back and listen to the ones that were never recorded.
Yeah. Wouldn't that be neat?
Wouldn't that be neat?
I
Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
think we might know some people that could get into that.
I think we do.
Right?
I think we most definitely do. So what was your question? You had something pop up in your brain.
So my question, I have a feeling, is not going to get the most positive feedback.
Okay.
But it is genuine inquiry because I'm combining things in my brain. Recently, like I told you, I've been watching the Hercule Poirot.
Hercule Poirot, yeah.
With Kenneth Branagh.
Right.
So Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, and then the third being Haunting in Venice. I love those movies.
Mm-hmm.
Love them. When we got to Haunting in Venice, the fact that obviously we know the difference in what happens in the end, but when you take Hercule and you drop him in this supernatural story, would that be something that could reinvigorate the Hornet?
How so?
If we dropped the Hornet into what could possibly be a supernatural story. I think the characters could function really well if there were storylines that occasionally had a supernatural bent. And then that brought up recently the Batman. The Cape Crusader.
Cape Crusader
had a couple episodes.
2 episodes, yeah, that were very supernatural-ish.
Yeah. And I kind of wanted to know what our listeners and you thought about that idea. Is that something you would be interested in seeing? Or is it like, no, I don't want my peanut butter and chocolate mixed?
That's a good question. And I can feel both ways on that because as a writer, I think along those lines a lot of times.
Yeah.
The last film that our film production company did was a 1940s film noir, sci-fi kind of horror, ghost story kind of thing.
And it was a good script.
Thank you.
A very good script.
Thank you. Give Mrs. Martin big kudos for that because a lot of it was her idea. And then I look at something like this and go, okay. One of the comments that I was having this last week with Mrs. Martin was, I don't know if you saw the news that the latest Joker film tanked.
Oh, yeah, it's been all over my feed, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, totally tanked. And my comment was, it's not surprising because I think we have reached a saturation point with mental illness and those kind of things for, those kind of characters.
Right.
Green Hornet never had those kind of characters in the past.
Right.
I mean, if you look at the Seth Rogen film, Chudnovsky is kind of, yeah, but he's nowhere near a Joker or, anybody.
Right. Well, and that's actually, we keep side tangent, and I apologize.
Yes.
Not to derail, but we keep saying, what is wrong with the Hornet?
Yeah.
And all the way back to our conversation with Martin, I think what's missing is a rogues gallery.
I tend to agree with that.
So
done the right way.
Right. I don't want just Batman villains.
No.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying he needs a cast of reoccurring villains at some point.
As opposed to just one that would show up in every, third or fourth episode of the radio show that didn't make a transition really into the television series.
Right. It's just one of the things. But I digress.
That brings up something that, I don't believe you've read the Moonstone books. You read the current ones that Jim did, right?
I read this Sting.
Okay.
I've read one of the two that I have.
Okay.
That I have borrowed from you.
That you have borrowed from me, and I would like back one of these days.
Yeah.
I'm not charging you like the library does at this point. There are the folks at Moonstone have a number of these compilations of short stories.
Yeah, and one of them called The Case Files.
One of them's called The Case Files, and okay. I apologize for that.
We didn't realize at the time.
We did not realize. But there is in at least one, if not two, of the volumes, and I don't know who wrote them, but they had come up with a recurring female villain that I absolutely loved the idea that she would show up. Batman-esque-ish, every once in a while Catwoman shows up or whoever it happens to be.
As long as she's not just a female cat burglar.
No.
Okay.
No, there's real thought process.
Okay.
I mean, real kind of Moriarty kind of feel to it. And
I love that idea.
And I really liked the idea behind that. And I believe, to your point, that that's a lot of what the issue is that, everyone, it was a different bad person. It was organized crime, and it was, Joe, whatever his name is, that's
it does,
bad guy, Joe Bad Guy.
It does. It harkens back to that street level that we've discussed so many times. But even in the streets, there's reoccurring characters. So
I've been trying to keep an eye on any kind of news. And the only news that we've had in recent months has been the Dynamite comic coming out in November.
The Miss Fury one.
The Miss Fury.
Yeah.
And we are in the process trying to get the writer and the artist on the show. We've had many, many emails with Alex and Henry on that. And one of them's based in New York, and one of them's based in L.A. or the L.A. area. And their schedules, our schedules aren't
not meshing yet, but we'll get there.
Yeah, so we're working toward that. And to my knowledge, that is the only piece of any kind of Hornet news that I've even come across. Unless we want to jump, this is kind of tangential. If is tangential a word?
Yeah.
It is now.
Yeah.
I used it. So Carl Kirchner, who owns Black Beauty #2 from the TV show, is in South Carolina. And I've been trying to reach out to Carl on something else. Besides, he will be a guest on the show. He's already committed to doing that with us. But I'm working with him on something else.
Okay.
And all of a sudden, Carl went, ready to go silent. Well, there was just a hurricane that blew through the Carolinas, and I have not heard any word. I don't know if anybody out there in Green Hornet Case Files land has contacted or had any contact with Carl. We'd love to hear, how Carl is doing.
Yeah.
And
hope you're okay, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. That's first and foremost. Be safe, and hopefully everything is cool. The other folk, I haven't talked to you about this one yet. A guy named John Negron. I don't know how to pronounce his last name.
Is it
Reminds
French?
me. It is no French. It is no French. I don't believe it's French. When I think of the name Negron, I think of Chuck, who was with Three Dog Night.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think there's any relationship there. But anyway, John has one of the most incredible Bruce Lee collections. And tangentially, he has Green Hornet stuff, too. And he and I have been going back and forth. He's been sharing all sorts of pictures. And John's located in North Carolina.
Okay.
And I just had a note back from John saying they had a lot of rain, but
overall they're all right.
everything's cool.
Yeah.
It went, I think, to the south maybe of where they were at. So just checking in on peeps, you know, and if you're one of them.
Any listeners out there, if you guys have been in what, Helene, I think was the last one.
Yeah.
And then Milton coming up, you know, reach out. Let us know you're cool. Like, even if we've never spoken before, send us a message. Let us know you're okay.
Yeah, we'd really like to know.
Because
Podcast.
our thoughts are with you.
Yeah, podcast at greenhornet66.com. We've got there's Green Hornet fans all over there.
Yeah,
all over the world.
You know, it's funny because when we were talking to Ben, I found that photo.
Oh yeah,
and I was like, it was posted on one of the Facebook Green Hornet pages. And I was like, I'm trying to figure out who this is. I still haven't got nothing. Nobody said anything.
No.
But since then, some people have been posting their collections.
Yes.
And holy mackerel, keep them coming.
Yeah.
I've seen so much cool stuff in the past, week, that it's just been overwhelmingly cool. All the stuff that people are posting, just big glass cabinets full of nothing but Hornet stuff. It's so rad.
It really is. And we're going to get some of those people on the show because I want to talk about, at some point, I want to talk about the collectibles. I have a few small pieces, and you have to know my wife. You know, I went through and we had this conversation, I think, about Star Trek stuff. I had boxes and boxes and boxes.
You had so much Star Trek stuff.
So much Star Trek stuff. And it's all gone now,
Yeah.
other than a couple of very select little pieces. But she's basically said there will not be a repeat of Star Trek with Green Hornet. And that's okay.
Yeah.
I get it. There are a few pieces, and it's more ephemera kind of stuff that I'm excited about. But
yeah, I'm a horrible treasure goblin. I amass, I hoard, and it's not great. It's probably I'm sure there's at least a wee bit of mental illness, but I see things and I'm like, nah, I can dispossess, you know.
It is that thing. It's, you know, I have to. What was it? Yesterday, my grandson. We've talked about the fact that we also do Ghostbuster stuff.
I saw the Ecto one today.
It's my friend James with his Ecto, and grandson is also part of this as well. He's 17 and loves to get into his outfit, and he texted me yesterday that he'd gone to Krispy Kreme because Krispy Kreme just came out with a collection of Ghostbuster donuts.
Oh, those don't stay well. This is hard to collect donuts.
It is hard to collect donuts. Yeah. So he had just over the school lunch hour ran to Krispy Kreme's and had bought a box and took pictures and stopped by the house and handed me one. I can't eat it because I have a different kind of a diet, but I thought that was really crazy.
Yeah.
And what I said to him was, "You should have got an extra box." And my wife is like, "Why?" Because it's a cool looking box.
Yep. Well, it's happening with popcorn. It's become a huge thing over this past year. Of every movie that comes out has a collectible popcorn bucket.
New popcorn bucket, yeah.
And they're $30-$40 for them or whatever, and I want every one of them. It's stupid.
Yeah. And I know there's that kind of Green Hornet stuff out there that a lot of it came from the 60s, from the 66, show. Some of it dips back further, and those are the conversations that I want to have with somebody about, what is prior to 66. That.
What collectibles were from the radio show and the cereal and all that.
Exactly. We've talked a little bit about some of the other guests that we're hoping to pick up and get on the show. And as we mentioned, Alex and Henry with the Dynamite comic, we plan on having them on. We'll have Scott on from the 66 Batman Forum. We'll have Scott on the show. And Carl with the Black Beauty, number 2. And we have bounced around this. We are also going to have the 2 guys from the French film.
Yes.
They're going to be on the show as well with us. That's Aurelian and Manu are going to be on the show. And the one, though, that I've bounced off of a time or two, and she says she wants to do the show. She's just not ready to do the show. Happens to be one Mary Kay Johnston. And the name sounds very unassuming. Mary Kay.
But if you know, you know.
Exactly. Mary Kay is the granddaughter of George Trendle and is also the vice president of Green Hornet Incorporated and is a lovely, lovely lady. We hit it off. We had dinner together over the
same weekend you hooked up with Ben down at the con.
Yeah, exactly, at San Diego Comic-Con. And she loves what we're doing. Just lovely lady.
Yeah.
And she would like to keep us kind of in the pocket of, moving forward with certain things. And we love that idea. I want to be part of it if we can be.
Right.
So Mary Kay has graciously said yes, that she'd be happy to be on the show. She's going through some health issues and some things right now, and that's great. Take care of yourself.
Timing is everything. We'll get it.
Get to feeling better.
We're not going anywhere. We're stubborn.
I am still working on trying to get a couple of other people to do the show with us that we haven't really been able to connect with. One of those is Shannon Lee, Bruce's daughter. We'd like to have her on the show, as well as the granddaughter of Key Luke. Is out there floating around doing things from time to time, and I'm having a devil of a time tracking her down. So
that would be cool, though.
Podcast.
GreenHornet66.com.
If you happen to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody that could connect us, we'd love to have her on the show to be able to talk about her grandfather's, contribution to the world of cinema and some great characters. I mean, always said, I think the story was that the kung fu character was a Master Po.
Yeah,
was one of his favorite characters that he ever did.
Oh man!
So those are just a few of the oddball things that we have kind of poking around.
So we totally diverged. You didn't give me your answer.
Yeah.
You thought I missed it, didn't you?
Yeah, I was hoping maybe that, I give myself a little buzz there. Yeah, okay. So I actually like the idea.
Do you? I didn't expect that, to be honest with you.
From a writer's standpoint, I love the idea of digressing just a little into that kind of thing. I don't think it hurts the overall character to have unusual things happen that can't be explained.
Right.
That said, I don't want it to become Ghostbusters
or Scooby-Doo or anything like that.
Or Scooby-Doo or anything, yeah.
What my thought process behind it was, again, coming from Death in Venice.
Yeah.
Or Haunting in Venice, I should say.
Haunting in Venice, yeah.
I don't know. I just think the character could play well in that kind of mystery, where the belief of the people around lends to something not of this world, and it would be cool to watch him navigate that, but navigate it from the aspect of a criminal enterprise is something we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And so it seems like it would lend itself well. But again, I would understand pushback on it, and I'm not saying by any means it should be a Ghostbusters or a Scooby-Doo or anything like that. I just wonder if that content, how it would play. And I think it would work really well. But that's please, if you have anything to say about that, podcast at greenhornet66.com. I'd love to hear your opinions on that.
And remember, these are Kory's opinions.
I'll take that all day long. I'll own it, man. It was something different that I was like,
Yeah.
kind of like your glasses.
Kind of like the new glasses.
They're different green glasses.
I'm having a heck of a time seeing with them. Up close, everything's fine. But I am my green guy here. One thing I'm also asking from you, the listener, is we did the one video podcast.
Yeah.
That, we had fun doing it. I had fun doing it.
Correct.
And I'd like to know your comments in regards to that. Did you?
I have a feeling Todd didn't appreciate it as much as other people. I really hope that didn't come across rude. That was a joke. I'm sorry.
That's Kory.
Fat Cato.
Fat Cato. Yeah. There you go. No, I'd love to hear your comments in regards to that product. Did you like the video thing? Was it okay? Ben made some nice comments about the fact that he thought it was great because he said production values was good. Yeah. And I appreciate that,
Just to tell a little behind the scenes story though. When we were setting up to do Ben's episode, we were planning on doing a video episode.
Yes.
And my fat arm broke the gas gun. And I feel so bad about it. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that just happened.
It has been re-glued.
Oh.
And we're doing a little body fill right now.
Okay.
And so it's still in the process.
I felt so, it was just bumped it with my elbow. I was like, oh
no.
Oh no. And I probably shouldn't have outed that to everybody because now I'm going to have people coming after me.
Yeah, probably.
Besides the two that are coming after me right now.
Yeah, in fact, my watch is buzzing right now, so it must be somebody buzzing in right now.
Well, it's you guys have goons, man. That's what I'm worried about.
Yeah, we do have goons. Yeah, you've seen the goons too.
I have.
Yeah. So I would love to hear comments from you in regards to the video podcast. It's not that it's not necessarily hard. It's just more involved. It's way more involved. First off, to set up all the cameras, all the lights. To do that, we can do it. It's not like it's
insurmountable.
Yeah. But it also takes more time for me then to edit and post it.
It's a lot more work.
It's a lot more work that way.
In every aspect of it.
And Kory and I are very much accustomed to sitting down in the studio like this and just, going for it.
Turning the mic on and going, having the conversation.
Yeah. So, again, love to hear your comments. Podcast at greenhornet66.com.
Actually, that being said, I'd kind of like to feature more questions. If you guys have any questions, I'd like to tackle maybe every few months, a grab bag episode with questions that we can go over, that we can get to the bottom of. Maybe stuff you don't have the resources to have the answer to. We can see what we can find.
We can,
I think it'd be a lot of fun to do some Q&A episodes with listener emails.
Yeah, I think so. We try and mention as many of the emails and so forth as we get. Some of them, again, are really, really nice. Yeah. Some of them, okay. And that's all right. Everybody has their opinion.
Well, and we don't need to. I'm not trying to read off everybody's emails either. I mean, if you had one, but if you want to pose questions, I'd love to kind of dig into that more.
The other question that I'd like to ask of everyone was the same question we asked Ben, and we've tried to touch on a time or two, is I'm trying to get an overall consensus, a feel from the fandom as to what maybe is, you would consider is, I got to be careful how I say this, is wrong with the Green Hornet. And I don't necessarily mean that from the perspective of the character himself,
Right.
or...
Well, like we were discussing earlier in the episode, like
Yeah.
Rogues Gallery, or what could you add, what could you change, what could you update?
Yeah.
You know, what helps, not what's wrong, what would help it move forward.
There you go. It's a better way of saying that.
You know,
Yeah.
what would help, what could we change to make it catch back on?
And become as popular as the current Batman, current Spider-Man, current Iron Man, you know,
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera.
Which, that's a tall order.
Oh, it is.
That's a tall order. And there is something to be said for, and I'm not talking out of school or anything, but there is something to be said for a nicher fandom. As of today, one of my all-time favorites, Hellboy, has a new movie that came out today.
Oh.
And it's super low budget, but it's kind of closer to the source material. I think that is what we need, is smaller. We don't need a bombastic, over the top. We need a good crime-fighting story at its core and see where it goes from there.
I don't disagree with that. You know, I think about some of the, and I don't want to call them fringe, but like Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
Kind of a fringy sort of story for DC, and they've only done 2 because the second film didn't perform as well.
Right.
But, you know, she was involved in some of the other films.
Yeah, and the Justice League movies.
Justice League movies. And
Yeah.
so...
You know what? That's another thing, that the tie-in connection is... I hadn't really thought of this until just now.
Okay.
We're coming out... The only character that the Hornet is tied to is the Lone Ranger. Right? There's no...
From the source material.
From
yeah.
the source material.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. There's no Justice League of pulp figures.
No.
You know, which
No.
would be cool. Which would be... I mean, seriously, if you had the Green Hornet and the Rocketeer and the Phantom and even updated all the way up to Eric Powell's The Goon, like all of these type of period characters that had a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen type feel to it would be cool.
Interesting idea.
That could be really, really cool.
Interesting idea, yeah. And it wasn't until 1966 when the Batman Green Hornet tie-in happened.
Exactly.
But that was because of the production company and trying to...
So that's yet another thing that we could build from. Because honestly, and let's be perfectly honest, without that tie-in to 1966, it falls away a long, long time ago.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, most
long time
definitely. Yeah, I don't think the comics, and again, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think the comic strips went much beyond the 50s.
Yeah.
When it was the serial in the...
But I don't think Now happens. I don't think Dynamite happens. I don't think any of that happens without 66 being what it was with Batman.
No, I don't think so.
So...
Yeah, I really, we probably wouldn't be having these conversations at this point in time.
No, probably not. And I mean, like we've tied it to, you know, I mean, the popularity is inextricably connected to Bruce Lee. And that is the other buoy that keeps us afloat. And it's going to stay that way for a while. But I'm saying is if there were to be some sort of connection to other characters, because currently the only connection besides the 66 version being connected to 66 Batman, the only connection is to the Lone Ranger. Now we have the Rogan movie, which was what it was.
Right.
And then an also incredibly tainted Lone Ranger movie.
Right.
Incredibly tainted. Did not do well, was not well received. A lot of poor choices, and that is an anchor. Those two films together are an anchor dragging us back.
I totally agree with that.
And I hadn't even thought about the Lone Ranger movie until just now. We're
Just
having
now,
this conversation.
yeah. Well, and the fact that even after the film is over, another, how many years has it been since that was out? That was
2012.
Was it 2012?
Yeah.
Just in the last couple of years, we've had more fallout from that over the actor that played
Armie Hammer.
Yeah.
And Johnny Depp.
And Johnny Depp as well. So there's a lot of baggage that goes along with some of these things.
Which currently, because like I mean, we've talked about this a lot. If we could get Kevin Smith's Hornet and Matt Wagner's Lone Ranger made, we'd be great.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And then you look at what Dynamite has done with some of the crossover comic episodes.
Yeah.
You know, just some of the wonderful characters that they've thrown together for, and there kind of is in the comic world a bit of what you were saying, that pulp
universe.
Universe.
Yeah.
But whether that could transition into something else, I don't know.
The problem is you get so many, like, when you have a cinematic universe, since that's the parlance we tend to use.
Right.
Marvel has a cinematic universe. DC had and is redoing. But there have been attempts at it in other things. Universal. I want the Universal monsters. I want the dark Universal movies to happen. And they launched into it with Tom Cruise's Mummy, and it didn't take off. It didn't stick the landing.
No.
So if we could revisit, but the problem is all of those characters tend to be under different umbrellas. So bringing them together is difficult. But I think, like I said, is if we could launch that, if there was I just keep putting the Hornet and the Rocketeer together in my brain, and then the Phantom and the Shadow and all of those. If we start piecing those together with a new universe, even if it were, I don't want to say a CW, but like a television network that did like all of these shows that could cross.
Interesting thought process on that. Yeah. One of the questions I get asked when I'm cosplaying is, it's DC. Green Hornet is DC because of Batman. I'm like, no. Well, it's not Marvel, is it? And I'm like, no. It's not. It's neither other. It's standalone, complete, total standalone. And whether that's been an issue with it, I suppose you could argue that it is and isn't. You know,
that's the thing is if it were a Marvel property, if it were a DC property, we'd have a much better shot. But it's not.
No,
and it's not, and that's fine. It doesn't need to be, but that would elevate its tangibility. You know, like, I mean, again, talking about things that I enjoy that aren't super popular.
Yeah.
Two characters that I loved from DC both got a TV show the same year. Was Constantine and Swamp Thing.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one made it past one season because they didn't want to back it, and DC got sold to Warner Brothers that year. But it's one of those things that Swamp Thing, while not something that gets bandied around and, you know, like a Superman or a Batman,
right?
Got another movie in the works.
Yeah.
You know, James Gunn's leaning into it. I guarantee you, if Hornet was in the DC universe, James Gunn would be all over making that movie and getting it done. So,
a lot of thoughts about this, and we'd love to hear your comments in regards to where do you think this could go, and like you were saying, you know, what could be done better to improve and push along the Hornet.
What helps us move forward?
Yeah. Podcast at greenhornet66.com. And something we have not said completely since I think maybe episode 1 is like and subscribe.
Slap that subscribe button.
Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, check us out wherever your favorite podcasts are had, and of course check us out on YouTube.
That brings me back to the one thing I told you about that I was listening back, and it was episode 2. We had done our we had recorded our interview with Martin Graham.
Right.
And the whole thing fell apart.
Yeah,
And
the very first one, yeah.
Right. And so we had to re-record it. And when we went to re-record it, you said, what is this, episode 14?
Yeah.
And then when we went to record episode 14, we weren't able to record the episode with Ben until the second time. And I thought, well, that's apropos. I like that you called it.
I must be sickic.
You just Babe Ruthed it, man. You pointed to the fence and called our shot.
I must be just, kind of sickic right there. All right. I think that's going to kind of wrap things up for this episode. Just
Man,
a
that
big
went quick.
grab bag. Yes, it most certainly
we can keep talking.
did. Yeah, I can talk this stuff all night long, and my wife knows it. And podcast at greenhornet66.com. Like and subscribe. Make sure you do that for us. And we'd love to hear your comments about anything we've said here today.
Yeah. If you have opinions about any of the stuff we brought up, we want to hear it. If you have questions about anything outside of that, we want to hear it. If you want to talk about how much you like Greg's new glasses, we want to hear it.
This is not the video episode, so.
Right, that's so.
So? Do you like my new green glasses?
Yeah, man, who cares? People have opinions. Have you been on the internet? They don't have to see it to have an opinion.
The what? The interwebs, is that what that's called? And by all means, again, if you've been in the path of any of the weather that's been happening, we'd love to hear from you. Just let us know.
Just check in. Let us know you're cool.
Let us know how everything's going. With that, brother, I think we're about out of here.
I think let's roll, baby.
Let's roll.
As the night envelops the city once more, our journey through the hidden alleys of history and valor comes to a close. You've been riding shotgun with the Green Hornet Case Files, where the echoes of the past meet the voices of the present. Tune in again for the next thrilling adventure, where shadows speak, secrets unfold, and the legacy of the Green Hornet continues to inspire. The Green Hornet Case Files is a Grail Productions podcast. The Green Hornet is owned exclusively by Green Hornet, Inc. Until next time, vigilant listeners, keep your wits sharp and your spirit unbreakable.